Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today on our Tuesday Reality Roundup, we are talking about Summer House, Love Island, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Southern Charm, and The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Let's get into it. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I hope everyone has had a good week so far. And, my apologies for being late in the episode and being late pretty much in general, because I know that I have not had a new episode for you guys since our last Monday reality roundup. So, again, apologies for that. Those of you who follow me on Instagram know that I have been mad over the past week, and that is why I have not been podcasting. A lot of that has had to do with the fandom, and I've just been feeling a lot of negativity from the fandom lately. And the reason why I got into this community and why I wanted to do this podcast and why I wanted to have my Instagram account was to have like a fun community to talk to about our favorite reality shows. But what I've noticed lately is that that community has become just really negative and death threaty and racist and just very, very awful. And it's sort of taken the fun out of watching TV, right? Like Bravo should be fun. The fandom, not fun. And I just sort of needed a break from it because, when I was trying to make statements that we shouldn't be issuing people death threats or racism and things like that, people were coming back at me with, well, they signed up for it. And you know what? Maybe that's true. But what I've been thinking is maybe we should change that because I don't think it's normal that people who we barely know on reality TV are getting death threats and racism and just a lot of negativity towards them from people who have never met them and don't really know anything about them. And so I'm here to issue maybe a little bit of a PSA just to say, like, do we have to? I really think it would be fine if we didn't. I don't think it needs to be part of the experience to be so negative. And then maybe people would be more inclined to go on reality TV. Who knows? But, I just don't want to get into the whole thing that much more because, again, I want to be positive in this episode. I want to talk about fun things and have a good time with you guys. I will get into this a little bit more when we talk about Love Island, but I guess, I guess what I want to say is I just don't feel that anyone on television warrants that kind of hate. I would love if us as a fandom could stop, or maybe we could just talk to each other about our hate instead of the people that we're hating on. That's what the community is about, right? We can talk about why we hate these Bravo Lebs. We can talk about why we love them, but let's talk to each other about it and just leave the reality stars alone, right? Like, leave Brittany alone. Just kidding. Anyways, let's get into our episode. Let's just do it. So we're going to start with Summer House. Now, filming started this past weekend, as it always does on July 4th weekend. And, we heard from Amanda Batula last week. She was on Jason Tarek's podcast and she was like, I don't know anything about casting. All I know is like, maybe there's going to be this one guy because he's a friend of mine and Kyle's. And then everyone sort of was like speculating, like, is it going to be Jason Tarek? I was wondering if it was going to be Brad Kearns because, he's Ariana Madix's best friend. He lives in New York now. He always goes to the Summer House parties. I saw him like posting that he was up there. So I was like, ooh, maybe. But then we saw who showed up. But let's first get into who was there that we do know. So we saw, in terms of filming over the past weekend, we saw Carl, we saw Kyle. Oh, and by the way, guys, there's like a bunch of flies in my apartment right now. I'm so sorry. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you are definitely seeing a bunch of flies flying around me. And the reason is I always leave my balcony door open because my dog likes to run in and out all the time. All weather doesn't matter. But it's like 40 degrees in Toronto right now. And so it's like really hot and muggy. And I guess because of that, there was like a lot of flies out there. And I left the door open yesterday and like a bunch of flies piled in. I don't have any spray to kill them and I don't even know if I should use it because I'm worried about hurting my dog. So like there's just flies in here. So I'm hoping that they, I don't know, like die or leave or something. But yeah, my apologies that you're seeing a bunch of flies in here. But anyway, Summer House. So in terms of filming, we saw Carl there. We saw Kyle and Amanda, Jesse, West, and Sierra. That's who is from main cast, who was definitely there over the weekend at the Summer House party. Then Lindsay and Gabby were not there. They spent the weekend in the city. They were playing with Gemma, hanging out at a pool, doing all this stuff. So I don't really know what that means because we haven't heard from Gabby yet in terms of her return to Summer House. Everyone else has made an announcement as to whether or not they were coming back, but not Gabby. So I don't know what that means. Now, we don't know how often Lindsay Hubbard is going to be up there either. Obviously, we know she wasn't there this weekend. It'll be interesting to see how much she's actually able to, get up there and film because I can't even imagine trying to drive that far out with like a small baby. So awful. Also at the summer house party this past weekend was a bunch of the Southern Hospitality cast. So like Maddie, Joe Bradley, and then there was also O'Sheen. Now, O'Sheen is from season 1 and 2 of Southern Hospitality. He is a piece of shit, okay? This guy is a sex abuser. He's actually also friends with Brock, like of Sheena and Brock. And he was actually in one episode of season 8 of Vanderpump Rules, and he grabbed Charlie Burnett's butt without her consent. Do you guys remember that? He just walks up to her at like, they were having like a Mad Max party. No, season 9? It might have been season 9, the really shitty season. He walks up to Charlie, just grabs her butt, and she's like, hey, 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 excuse me, right? I have a boyfriend. What are you doing? He basically does the same thing on Southern Hospitality and refuses to apologize and tries to blame it on like a cultural thing. This guy's a piece of shit. He was not in season 3 of Southern Hospitality, but I don't really understand why people keep him around. And when I saw him filming, I was like, uh-oh, or no, sorry. When I saw him at the party, I was like, oh shit, is he filming for Summer House or is he going to be on the next season? But hopefully not. I don't know if there was some sort of crossover here happening. Southern Hospitality is starting to film soon, but yeah, it was interesting that they were at the party and I don't know what that means in terms of any sort of crossover. But then we got 4 new cast members who were definitely at the party this weekend. So here's who we have. We have a guy named KJ. He has a very chiseled face. It's very, you guys have to look him up. He is a music artist. I looked him up briefly. He has a couple of tracks out. He I don't know. I don't know much else about him except that, yeah, he just has a very chiseled face, very chiseled features. And he actually started following me on Instagram right after I started following him. So, hey, KJ, thank you for the follow. And I guess we'll start to learn more about him. I don't know who in the group he was friends with, but he looked like a fun guy. We saw him like partying with Wes and Jesse over the weekend. So he was wearing like a yellow and like pink shirt. It looks sort of like a Hawaiian shirt. He was like bumping to the music. So he seems like hopefully the right vibe. I guess we'll see. Then there's this guy, Ben. So Ben is the one that's friends with Kyle and Amanda. He is from Australia and he might be from The Bachelor Australia. I'm not quite sure, but he lives in New York now. And he seems like a really nice guy. I know that sounds crazy just based on looking at someone's photos, but there's something about his eyes. He seems kind. Like, I don't know what it is. I think he's 38 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and he just, I don't know, he has just like a very kind, nice face. I feel like he's gonna serve as like a source of like calmness in the house. Now, again, this is literally just based on me looking at some photos of this guy. I feel like he's gonna serve as that really calm presence. Okay, and then we have Levy and Bailey. So these are 2 girls, a different Bailey than last year's Bailey. One blonde, one brunette. Now, these 2 girls know each other and have a history, so that's good at least. It seems like they have a background together. One of them has a podcast and the other one is an influencer. So I think it's Levy that has the podcast. And it's called It Girl. Now, I've heard of It Girl. I've seen It Girl do interviews of Summer House cast members. Now, I was never sure who was behind It Girl, but I have always seen like these It Girl interviews where they're interviewing Summer House cast on like, you know, biggest fan questions and things like that. So I thought that was a sort of interesting casting choice. It sort of seems like someone who's in the media sphere that has worked with them in a sense in terms of like interviewing them. It's almost like hiring someone, not hiring, sorry, casting someone for Summer House that like works for Us Weekly or something like that. It sort of seemed like that to me because this person has interviewed all of these people for press. So interesting choice. I wonder if Levy and Bailey have any connection to Sierra or Amanda, or if they're just completely separate on their own. Not really sure, but Sierra and Amanda were definitely there. Paige, of course, was not. And that's what we know about Summer House so far. But yeah, we love to stalk Summer House filming. I wonder if it'll be different this year than last year. I mean, last year was when, Lindsay made her huge announcement on July 4th that she was pregnant. I wonder if anything huge will happen this year. But, guys, remember when we get new cast members, it can be a struggle for us to. It's hard to get to know new people. It's hard to invest in new people, but let's try because summer should be fun. I think this show has potential to continue for many years to come as long as they keep recycling in and out like new people. That's what the show has always been relatively good at, where, you're always bringing in a couple of new people so that eventually when mom and dad, Kyle and Amanda leave, we may be invested in enough new-ish people that we want to see the show continue. That's the hope. All right, well, let's move on to Love Island. And there is just like so much online drama when it comes to this show. So by the time this episode comes out for you guys, there'll have been 31 episodes. I haven't watched Monday night's episode yet because I'm recording this Monday afternoon. But, it's been a shitty season. And I say that as someone who has only watched one season prior to this. But, I mean, we're not getting a movie night. We don't have any solid couples. Everyone at the end is new. Everyone played this wrong. And when I say that as someone who's not a gamer and someone who wasn't really paying attention to the game aspect of this. But this is what I've heard from others, and I get it. So basically, what's been going on is either us as the fandom, well, not me specifically, I never voted, but the people who voted, America, and as well as the other islanders, everyone was fucking up in terms of their decision making, right? At the beginning, the Islanders were fucking up by getting rid of people who were in couples, and then America fucked up by getting rid of people that we kind of liked. And so now we're just sort of left with a bunch of randos. And, I'm not here today to recap Love Island. We're here to talk about like all the news and all the drama that's come out of it. But I just have to say, it's ending in 8 days, in a week from now. Um, there were moments that were really exciting. Like, I know it's crazy to say, but Hurrdat gave me life, right? Like, she's not the kind of girl I'd want to be friends with on the outside, but she was definitely very interesting, right? And then Nicolandria, which is like sort of possibly coming back into force. I mean, we're here for it. We'd love to see it. Now, on the outside, absolutely not. That guy is such a fucking idiot and so immature. But I think this has been a really interesting viewing experience in terms of the fandom, in terms of being really into it and then really out of it, and all of the online speculation. So I guess let's get into that. So Austin initially, so he's now been kicked off the island. Austin initially was involved in some sort of racism scandal. Now, I don't remember exactly what it was. I thought he was just MAGA. I thought that that's what had come out about him. I'm not sure, but he never got kicked off of the show, and I'm not sure why. I mean, he got kicked off, obviously, by America, and he had no one standing behind him at whatever the last episode was. But I don't really know what his initial racism was in particular. Regardless, he came online to issue, some sort of statement about it as soon as he got out of the villa. So this is what he had to say about the allegations of racism against him.
Because this is like crazy. But are you fucking dumb? Like honestly, are you dumb? Like do you not think? I have a black woman tatted on my side. Use your head.
What the fuck is that? That is such a psychotic thing to say. I have a black woman tattooed on my side, so that makes me not racist. That's literally identical to saying I have black friends. Anyways, so then he realizes that wasn't good enough and it didn't get very good response. So then he issued another statement and he said, I want to take a moment to address my recent repost that has caused offense to some of you. As you all know, I have a very dry sense of humor and I genuinely didn't think before sharing that content. It was never my intention to hurt or upset anyone. I value and respect all individuals and their perspectives. I recognize that my choice of content did not resonate well with everyone, and for that, I sincerely apologize. I'm committed to learning from this experience and to being more mindful in the future. Thank you for your understanding and holding me accountable. Love you all. Thank you so much for this incredible experience. Okay, so then remember Yulissa, who was kicked off like basically like day two. We never even really saw her leave, and she also had racism allegations against her, and that was for using a racial slur on a podcast, I believe. So she had already come out and like made statements about her side of it. Well, she decided she wanted to do it again, and she wants to double down again on it not being that bad. You guys will not believe. So this is what she had to say.
It was a racial slur. Yes. Did you guys take it out of context? Yes. But if you fucking listen to the clip, I wasn't using the word in a racial way. So you, my friend, you should know the fucking difference.
There is no difference. You can't use the N word in a non racial way. This cast, okay, hold on. I'm going to get to the end of these and then we can discuss it as a whole because, again, just wild. Okay, so then we heard that Sierra had some racist posts as well. So basically, it was this post of her getting Botox. She was an influencer before this, so she definitely had her own brand deals. She had a brand deal with Skims. So she was sort of a bigger influencer in her own right. And she did like an influencery type post about Botox. And she wrote, Botox isn't for everyone, but I love it for me. I'm incredibly expressive with my face, and I catch myself frowning for no reason throughout the day when I'm focusing on something or thinking too hard. I can also be a little, and then there's a C word. I'm not going to say the word because I don't want to be offensive, but it is a slur. When I laugh slash smile, so I love getting a mini brow lift to open up my eyes and get that snatched look. This is not me encouraging, but more so sharing. So this came out like about a week ago. And what we heard on the back end was like producers were basically like freaking the fuck out, having crisis meetings because at this point, like I said, we are 8 days from the end. So, you hear the fandom rioting, being like, kick her off, kick her off. You did it with Ulissa. You have to treat her the same. You have to do the same with Sierra. And she continued to be on episodes. So the fandom was like, yeah, what the fuck is going on here? So then so as you guys know, like since they don't have access to their phones, their friends and family are running their Instagram accounts. And these people are called like their handlers. So Sierra's handler ended up posting to her Instagram account about this. And she said, Hi guys, I see your comments concerning someone I love and care about. I want to be clear that I do not condone racism, bigotry, or hate in any way, shape, or form, nor was I aware of the recent screenshots until they were posted. I discovered it at the same time as all of you did. I cannot speak for anybody or make any statements besides my own, and decided to take a step back from running her account. I was already asked by her family to turn off comments and refrain from speaking on her behalf. This situation has become really difficult, and I'm still processing everything. So, this past episode, which was episode 30, if I'm not mistaken, so sorry, not last night's episode, not Monday night's episode, but I think Sunday night's episode is when Sierra officially gets kicked out of the villa. And all we see is a line on the screen that says, Sierra has left the villa for personal reasons. That's all they give us. And Nick is just sitting there. Now, there could never be more of a statement that this guy was never that into her than the fact that he is still there in the villa. There are 8 days left. How much could you have liked her, even though you were closed off, if you're not leaving with her? Like, come on. This isn't day one or day two. This is the end, and you're trying to make a connection now. That means you were here for the money, you were here for the experience, you were here for whatever. You were not that into her. Just saying. So then Sierra's family has responded to Sierra being kicked off and to this whole situation, and they wrote, as Sierra's parents, this has been one of the most painful weeks of our lives. We've seen the posts, the headlines, the hurt, and the hate. And while Sierra hasn't seen any of it, we have, and so have the people who love her. We're not here to justify or ignore what surfaced. We understand why people are upset, and we know accountability matters. But what's happening online right now has gone far beyond that. The threats, the cruel messages, the attacks on her family, her friends, and even her supporters. It's heartbreaking. It's uncalled for. And no one deserves that kind of hate, no matter what mistake they've made. While Sierra is not in the villa anymore, she is still away. She hasn't had the chance to process any of this or speak for herself. But we know our daughter. We know her heart. And when she returns, we believe she'll face this with honesty, growth, and grace. While she'll always be our little girl, she's also a woman who will take her own responsibility in her own time and her own voice. Until then, we're simply asking for compassion, for patience, basic human decency, not just for her, but for everyone caught in the middle of this. Thank you for those who have continued to show love, even when it's not easy. With love, her family. Oh, and then Bella, remember Bella, Belle Dasha? She also made a statement because she's an Asian American woman. So she made a statement on Instagram saying, as a proud Asian American woman, I'm deeply appreciative of the Love Island USA producers for taking a stand and making it clear that racism of any kind is not tolerated. When I first saw what my fellow Islanders said on their social media pages, I was incredibly heartbroken, but I wanted to wait until they left the villa and were able to address the situation, genuinely apologize, and commit to learning from the experience before deciding how our relationship would look moving forward. As screenshots continued to surface, it became clear that I could no longer support this person and made the decision to unfollow them a couple of days ago. Asian hate is oftentimes overlooked and dismissed, but being a first generation American, I have personally witnessed and experienced how real and hurtful comments like these are. It is my hope that this situation can help shed light on how big of an issue anti-Asian hate actually is. Just so, like many other Asian Americans, my mom immigrated here to create a better life for her and her future family. Knowing that hardships she and so many others have faced, I could no longer be silent. Because what good is this amazing platform God and you all have given me if I don't use it to amplify the voices of my community? I do not condone bigotry or racism of any kind, but I also don't condone hate either. Please think twice before leaving unkind comments to or about this person. I love you all so much. And also just to note that, last week a lot of people were calling Olandria and Shelly mean girls, and their handlers had to end up turning off the comments on Olandria and Shelly's Instagrams because they were getting so many death threats and hate and racism. Oh, one more, you guys. So, Hurrdat allegedly said the N-word in an old video that had surfaced where she was singing over a song that had the N-word in it. Now, a lot of content creators have reviewed this quote unquote footage and they're like, no, she didn't. She didn't sing the word at all. It really seems like people are reaching at this point. I mean, okay, when there is legit racism, yes, people should be kicked off the show 100%. But now it seems like people are really trying to fish. And again, there are 8 days left. Let's just let it be. But I guess what I have to say about it is like, I guess Love Island producers need to do a better job with their background investigations because it seems like there were several members of the cast who were involved in something nefarious that maybe we wouldn't want on TV. And it should be their jobs to find that out beforehand, not while we're, starting to get to know these people on television. That's crazy. But it feels like everyone seems to have something in their background at some point. So I don't know. I feel like maybe even reality stars should do more thinking about whether they should make the decision to go on reality TV. Because, like I said, everyone sort of has something out there. And maybe that's something people need to really, really consider if they go on reality TV. Because, it's not just about the money and the fame. It often comes with people really, really looking into everything you've ever done in your entire life. And unless you're absolutely positive that you have never done anything bad, I probably wouldn't go on reality TV. Just saying. But that being said, I agree with a lot of the Islanders who are, or their family members who are like, can we just stop the hate though? And Ariana Madix has said the same. A lot of other Bravo content creators have come out to say the same. And that's why I'm saying this isn't like just a Janet thing. This is also a Love Island thing. This is a reality TV thing. This is a bigger problem where we're not enjoying the shows to the same extent because we're so focused on hating them and leaving them hate messages and just being so negative and vile that it's just become not fun. Do you know what I mean? So while this season of Love Island sort of wasn't fun anyways for a number of reasons and was sort of a hot mess, I feel like we kind of made it worse. I just have to say it. All right, let's get into The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And I know that the reunion aired last Tuesday, so a week ago. So I know I'm a little late to the game. And I know there wasn't really much that came out of the reunion, but I just wanted to talk about like a couple of points and things that came out of it. Obviously, we know that Whitney Leavitt and Jen Affleck are both going to be on Dancing with the Stars. I was a little bit confused if Nick Viall was announcing this to them. So on the reunion, he's telling them and everyone that they're going to be on Dancing with the Stars, but I couldn't tell if he was the one making that announcement to them. I don't know. I don't know if Dancing with the Stars had let Jen and Whitney know in advance, but it sort of seemed like Nick was breaking this news. We also didn't get much on the whole Jesse of it all, which is what I expected, because I was very confused as to why we were having this reunion anyways. The end of the reunion has an entire trailer for season 3, or sorry, maybe the second part of season 2? No, season 3. It has the entire trailer for season 3, meaning that's already been filmed. So to talk about things that happened in season 2 when they're going to be addressed in season 3 just sort of seemed moot. Not even just moot, but they couldn't even talk about it because Nick obviously asked Jesse, off the jump, you're not wearing your wedding ring. We saw how the season ended with Marciano making these allegations that you two hooked up. What can you tell us about it? And Jesse's like, nothing. I can't tell you anything about it because it's going to be in the next season and it's all going to be wrapped up there. Then we also have all of this drama with Demi, and we know that Demi is not there, but we have sort of like these side interviews that Nick Viall does with her to get more information. And Jen Affleck ends up like pulling out like receipts. So she actually recorded a phone conversation that she had with Demi, where Demi and Brett were basically trying to convince Jen to make it seem like Demi has this really amazing marriage. And I don't know, it was very odd. Listen, I'm not going to talk about this in too much depth because I think at the end of the day, I think we all know that a lot of this seems very manufactured. Initially, when we were talking about Marciano and Demi, I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely horrifying that something like this can happen here. Why are people not taking this very seriously? And now that I'm just looking at the whole picture, including Jesse, including Marciano, including Demi, including Jen, I really feel like a lot of this is just storyline and kind of manufactured, and that just feels less fun, right? Bravo should be fun. Hulu, not fun. I mean, I love The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but I guess I love to have a lot of authenticity in my reality TV. And I feel like, unfortunately, there's just like a lot more production in this show than I would typically like. Like, hey, listen, I'm gonna watch it anyways, obviously. But I just feel like whatever we're gonna see coming up in season three is just very highly produced, in addition to all of the fights that these women are having. One other topic from the reunion that I did want to talk about is Whitney's husband, Connor. So, as we know from him in season one, he had this issue with Whitney where they went off to Hawaii for a little bit because they were struggling in their marriage because she found out that he had a porn addiction and that he was talking to people on like online dating sites. And they ended up working it out, but he came out in this reunion to tell us that he had actually been raped when he was a young boy. And it looks like that there was footage covered about this where he was going to talk about it in season one and it was cut. I don't know whose decision that was, but I thought it was extremely brave of him to come out and say this on TV. I also, I think it gave us a lot more context to his porn addiction or to some of the issues that he may have had in his marriage. Um, you know, these sorts of situations, these abuse situations, they can sort of manifest in so many different ways. I mean, Michaela, hers manifested in her skin, right? A lot of her skin issues have to do with the way that she was abused for so many years by so many different people in her life. And you really can't predict the way that abuse will, yeah, manifest or how that will play out as an adult, especially if you never got treatment or therapy or anything for it. I don't think he said in the episode, but I sort of got the sense that he has had a chance to go to therapy because he was able to make the connection between like this porn addiction and all of that to his traumatic past. And I think that is the kind of thing a therapist would help you deal with. I also just want to say there are so many people on this cast who have been sexually assaulted. And I think that's just astounding in this really fucked up way. And when I think about it, it's obviously because of the culture that they're in. The Mormon culture, there's so many cultures, but a culture like the Mormon culture has a lot of men in power who take their power out on those who are less powerful than them, whether it be women, children, whoever. And it's really disgusting the way that this culture has, you know, really done devastating things to its youth. Um, Jacob, who is Macy's husband, now I don't want to speculate, but looking at him and his reaction to what Connor was describing, the look in his eyes looked so, I don't know, you guys, there was like a pain in his eyes, a very, very noticeable, identifiable pain that I recognized. Again, I'm not going to speculate, but looking at his eyes, it looked like maybe he had been through something too. And I just think that, you know, it's religion can be amazing in so many different ways. It has healed people, it has helped people. But there are some of these like culty type of religions. I mean, there's even some like Israeli ones that I've heard about. There's like this religion or this Jewish community in New York, apparently, that's very, very small, where there was a bunch of rabbis that were raping all these young boys. And again, it's just like this power dynamic where these people in power are just taking their power out on those who are less impressionable or who are more impressionable and who are younger and who can't fight back and who are afraid to fight back. And it's a disgusting use of power. And I'm just, I don't know, I'm just really sad for them. And I hope that they're all able to get the help that they so truly need. Okay, let's move on to Southern Charm. Yeah, Southern Charm. So Madison had her baby. Congrats to Madison and Brett. The baby's name is Teddy. She is a girl. And I have a little update on how Teddy is doing. Oh, sorry. Back to Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Jen Affleck had her baby. I forgot to mention that. So congrats to Jen Affleck. She posted on Instagram, baby Penelope is here and she is perfect. Going unmedicated was truly the most painful but empowering experience of my life. I could not have done it without Zach and my supportive doula. I'm so grateful and happy that Penny is Earthside now. So congrats to her family, the Afflecks, the Ben Afflecks, to everyone in the Affleck family on their amazing child. Okay, back to Southern Charm and their babies. Madison, like I said, had her baby. And yeah, our update there is that the baby is still in the NICU. They're still there with her. She's doing great. She's taking bottles, gaining weight, and right on track for where she should be. She's a preemie angel, and she's getting stronger every day and can't wait to go home. So great news for Madison and her little family. The Southern Charm cast actually just finished wrapping one of their cast trips. So they're pretty much almost done filming. Rod and what's her name? And Vanita were posting a lot of stuff, and so was Sally. So you could tell that they were having a good time on this trip, but possibly there was fighting because like Sally was posting like some funny TikToks about like, oh, we're having fun while all our friends are fighting. Now, she was also on a plane to wherever they went, I think Mexico, sitting next to a guy with like dirty blonde hair and glasses. Now, I'm not sure if he's a new member of the cast or maybe just some random, but he seems kind of cute. I'm not sure if he's like a friend of or if we're going to see much of this guy, but he sort of looks like Sally. I actually don't know if maybe it's her brother. I really can't tell, but there's something going on there. And then, as you guys know, I was covering Honestly Cavallari, the headline tour on my Patreon. Shout out to the Patreon. Definitely join if you guys can. Patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. And Kristen Cavallari had Craig and Austin on her podcast when they were doing the Boston leg of the tour. I think it was like March 11th or 12th. So I recapped that episode on my Patreon. But Kristen is also recapping those episodes on her podcast. And so she was talking last week about that episode that she did with Craig and Austin. And I just want to play this clip for you guys because it's so funny what she had to say about her impression of them on her show.
A little opening monologue. The boys are right, to the side of the stage listening. And you can tell they're like getting a little nervous because my opening monologue, they don't show a lot of it in the show. They'll show like little glimpses here and there. But the gist of my opening monologue was that, my life in the media, I've never felt like I had control over my voice. But, this is the one time in my life I want to give them something to write about. Like, let's give them some damn headlines. I do show that on the show. But and then I'm like, I'm bringing out people who have been in the headlines with me to like basically talk about exactly what happened, like pull back the curtain on it. So when I'm saying that, you can tell that they're like, oh shit, like we're going to talk about all of the headlines that we were in because I know this now, but I didn't know it at the time. I guess Craig's team had asked my producers to not bring up Paige, which by the way is totally reasonable. That is a very normal ask. I told you guys last week on the podcast, I think it was last week, that I typically go into interviews and say, I don't want to talk about my ex-husband. Like there are definitely requests that you can make. That is not out of the ordinary. However, he never said anything to me. So I had no idea. He did not want me to ask about Paige. Also, of course I'm going to ask you about Paige. That's the last time you and I saw each other. I want to know if you lied to me about her. Like, what do you mean I'm not going to bring up Paige? Of course I'm going to bring up Paige. Are you kidding me? Imagine if Craig came out on my podcast tour and I said nothing about him being single or about what happened with him, me and Paige. Like, no, I'm sorry, Craig, come on, buddy. We love you. Use your head. Okay. But yeah, so Craig is nervous. Oh yeah. He says he shouldn't be here. I'm just going to say, is he feeling a little guilty because he knows he lied? He knows he lied. I don't know. So like I said, there was this love triangle between Craig, Austin, and I. But then a second love triangle came in when Paige entered the chat. And, listen, Craig did lie to me about Paige. Sorry, Craig, I love you. On the show, I went back and read our text messages and it didn't make the show. I think it didn't make it because you can't read someone else's text messages unless they sign a release for it. So, well, yeah, it's nice having my end of it. Like, you kind of needed his end too to really, really get the gist of it. Or not get the gist of it. You get the gist of it from my end, but to like really get like the full like meat and potatoes, you needed his end too. But he did lie to me about Paige. He did. He did. Let's just put that out there. And so I think there's a little part of him that just is feeling kind of guilty and like caught red-handed. I think he has dug himself into a big old hole in the press as a whole lately. And this was just one more thing adding to it. But that's all I'm going to say, Greg. I will not read our text messages. I will not call you out any more than just saying, you did lie to me. You did. And I still love you. Okay, I asked the boy.
So I just thought that was kind of wild. Okay, so there's a few things there. He did already say on the toast, and I guess that's why she's bringing this up, that he had asked her not to talk about Paige, and so he didn't know that that was going to come up. And I did mention this on my last episode, I think. I think it's odd that they didn't talk in advance at all about what was going to be in the show. I think on both of their ends, that was odd. I just can't imagine someone asking me to come on like a live show and me not knowing what the content was going to be. I would have asked, and I also would expect that the person would tell me. I can't believe the two of them just both like, and I don't mean Craig and Austin, I mean like Craig and Kristen, literally both did not talk to each other about the content of this show. I get from Kristen's end, she wants it to sort of be headlines and a surprise, and she doesn't want there to be too much thought about it, I guess, in advance of like what they were gonna say. But that's also kind of unfair, right? Like, do you want to like blindside these people as well? I mean, that's not really fair. What I also think is interesting is how she's saying that she read their text messages on stage and it didn't make the show. Yeah, I didn't know about that because I did watch the show. What I think is interesting about that is like it was a live audience, so I'm surprised that fans haven't come out with like, I don't know, recordings of like Kristen reading the text, or I'm surprised someone hadn't written it down or like posted it to Reddit or something like that. But what I'm confused about is the way in which he lied. Now, I'm sure he did, but I'm just confused because she had said that like basically they had hung out like two or three times. They hooked up like two or three times. Um, then she saw a picture of him like out with Paige and she goes, "Hey, like what's going on there?" I think he said nothing and then she said like, "Let's just be friends." So maybe that's the lie. Like I really don't know. But the way she portrayed it on her show was like it was barely anything with him. They only hooked up a couple of times and whatever. So I don't really know why she's outing him like this. But like, yeah, Craig, I mean, he should learn by now that lying really never gets you anywhere because you will always be called out on it, especially on TV, especially when there's proof. Like, my God. So I don't really know what he was thinking. But if I'm being honest, I'm kind of not sure what she was thinking. Like, when I listened to this episode of her like calling him out like this, I was like, "Girl, why are you doing that?" Again, like if they were dating and he cheated on Kristen Cavallari, that's one thing. But like they weren't really anything. So did she really have to call him out on this on the podcast? I don't know. And she's like, "I love you still," and it's like, I don't think he loves you still. I don't think he's gonna love you after hearing this. And I love Kristen Cavallari, but I thought this was a little bit much even for her, just in my opinion. All right, let's move on to our last and final story, which is The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And it has just been dropped today, being Monday, because that's when I'm recording, that Denise Richards and Aaron Phypers, or whatever his last name is, are getting a divorce. Now, I am very surprised to hear this. They've been married for 7 years. I actually did an episode of Be True Hollywood Story on Denise Richards because she is so incredibly fascinating. But I've always hated Aaron. I mean, that guy is so fucking weird. We saw him on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills talking about his like quote unquote business where he like cures people of diseases, which doesn't even make sense. And the way he would talk to people about it on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, he would talk in a very condescending way to imply that he knows more about medicine and health than anyone else. When keep in mind, he is no doctor, okay? He just runs some sort of center. I think it's like stem cells. I don't even know what it is. He's currently being sued by someone who died because of his treatment. Sorry, not exactly. Basically, the person died and her husband, Aaron had promised the husband that if the treatment didn't work, that he would give him his money back. But this was like a verbal agreement. I don't know what kind of company has like a verbal agreement to give someone their money back if the patient dies. That makes no fucking sense, but that's probably why he's being sued. Also, just his general creepy nature. The fact that he thought people were always following him and he would be like, "Oh, like Big Pharma's following me." You're probably being followed because you're with Denise Richards. Like, are you serious? So TMZ did post an article. It's very short and it just says, sorry, let me grab it. TMZ says Denise Richards and her husband Aaron Phypers are getting a divorce. According to court documents obtained by TMZ, Aaron filed for divorce on Monday in Los Angeles. He lists the usual irreconcilable differences and says the date of separation is July 4th. The former couple have been married for 6 years. Okay, sorry, 6 years, not 7. They share no minor children together. According to the documents, Aaron is seeking spousal support from Denise. You motherfucker. Are you kidding me? I cannot handle it when men who are fully capable of working try to get spousal support from their wives. Don't you have a business where you're trying to like save lives, man? Why are you trying to take her money? You lived perfectly fine before her. You can live perfectly fine with after her. This is bullshit. But I think it's interesting that he's the one filing for divorce. What happened here? What happened here where he's filing for divorce? Also, didn't he adopt Eloise, her other daughter? Like, so she has 2 children with Charlie Sheen, and then she has another daughter that she adopted herself that has developmental disabilities. And I believe that Aaron had adopted her. So it's interesting that it says that they have no minor children together. Maybe Aaron has never gone through with the formal adoption process, but that does make me sad for Eloise because she's developed a relationship with him. Now, we have gotten to see a little bit more of him on that show that Denise recently had called Denise Richards It's Complicated. Her 2 oldest daughters aren't speaking to each other, and then you've got this, but like, I didn't really see anything on the show to give me any indication there was an issue in their marriage. If anything, these 2 have always seemed super, super hot and heavy for each other, super supportive of each other. And yeah, I think he's a piece of shit and crazy, but that's why I thought she would be divorcing him. I'm very, very interested to know why he is divorcing her, and I will be keeping up on this story. Don't you worry, guys. Don't you worry. I will be investigating. All right, well, that is the end for today. You guys will hear from me later this week. I'll either be covering the Valley, Miami, Love Island, all the things, all the things. If you want to follow me on Instagram and TikTok, you can do so at The Bravo Investigator. If you want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast. $5 a month, 4 extra podcast episodes a month. Right now I'm doing Next Gen NYC. I've also got Honestly Cavallari, all the episodes in there as well. Also, it's just like a really fun live chat where we're just having fun, talking, having a great time. You also get all the regular episodes that are on the main feed. You get those early and you get them ad-free. So highly suggest you join the Patreon if you can. And if not, I will see you BBs next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.